Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Barely Filtered. I am just coming back from Miami, so I'm going to talk a little bit about swim week, and then in 2 days, I have a breast surgery. Now, this is the third boob surgery that I have had in 3 years, so I've had a lot of people asking questions about that. I'm going to get into why I'm having another surgery, what has changed about my preferences, and what has not worked for me. Now, I don't know if any of you out there have ever made a decision about your body or any kind of beauty treatment that you've had that you wanted to undo in some way. But if you have, please let me know in the comments, because I feel like it's a common thing. And some things are not reversible, but we can always fix and make adjustments. Actually, it's so funny because I was watching the Culpo sister, like a clip from our show that we had on HBO a couple years ago. And that was one of my biggest beauty regrets is I got Botox on the top of my lip. It's called a lip flip. They just do like the smallest little injection basically on the 2 points of your Cupid's bow. And for some people, it looks really good. I think it looked good for me when I wasn't talking. Basically, it paralyzes the muscles above your lip so that when you're at rest, your lip flips up, your top lip flips up, and it gives you kind of more surface area. So it looks like you have a nicer pout. I looked absolutely insane talking in half of the episodes because I like this, and you couldn't, like, my top lip was not moving. It's all I could focus on. I'm like, this is going to live on the internet and in the world for all of eternity. And, we only got one season. I just feel like I really did not bring my best. I didn't bring my best face game because I was like, oh my God, we're going to be on TV. Let's get all the things done to look the best. And let that just be a lesson to anybody who like maybe has their wedding coming up or anything where you want to look your best. It's not the time to try new things when it comes to your appearance. And lip flip is something that, yeah, it's not for me. And of course, I feel like cosmetic stuff for me sometimes can be a little bit like smoking weed. And this is going to be a weird comparison, but it took me about 500 times of smoking weed to realize that every single time I ever did it, I never actually liked the feeling. And I was like, oh, but everybody else seems to be enjoying it. Let's just try it again. Nope, still feel anxious, still don't feel good. Did this for many years of being like, weed is supposed to chill you out. I'm just going to do it because everybody else is doing it. And I actually hated it every single time. And I think what I'm realizing now is that I actually hate every single time that I get Botox. I feel like it pulls my eyebrows weird, especially because I have to watch myself on these clips sometimes. I feel like I'm always like, what is going on with that? Like, it doesn't look like my expression or my face. And I don't think I like Botox. I definitely don't like it above my lip, but I think now I'm realizing that I don't like it on anywhere near my eyebrows either because it makes weird expressions. And now I'm starting to also hear that Botox, we've been taught that it lifts and it smooths and everything. But when you think about it, if you're paralyzing the muscle, what's going to happen to it? It's going to droop. So many times of paralyzing that muscle, they're showing long-term effects of what Botox looks like on the face. And sometimes it can actually look droopy, especially around the jowls. I also heard something really interesting about Botox that I know I am not one of those people who am a fear mongerer, but I watched something and I thought it made so much sense. So basically, when you paralyze some of the muscles in your face, the muscles in your face talk to parts of your brain and your brain talks to parts of the muscles in your face. So it's like a two-way connection. So supposedly, now we can check my science. I don't remember who, this was like research backed on Instagram. So just check on this. But listen, basically it was like, because this is a two-way communication street, when you paralyze some of the muscles on your expression of your face, it shuts off the parts of your brain that are in charge of things like empathy, that would talk to the parts of your muscles on your face, telling them to make expressions. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but basically it's saying that people are slowly but surely lacking empathy and other emotions because they're paralyzing the reciprocal muscles on the face, having to do with those emotions. I don't know. Am I afraid of that? If I thought Botox made me look really good, would that stop me? Probably not. But it is something to consider, and it is interesting because I think we don't maybe think it's that big of a deal to paralyze the muscles on our face, but maybe it actually does more than just, make other people think that we don't have expression. Maybe we actually don't have emotion. Maybe we're actually truly losing emotion from paralyzing these muscles. Anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. We're going to move right along because I know you guys probably want to hear about how swim week was. And man, that was a whirlwind. I'm really not I've never really had a lot of insecurities around my body. And I know that probably is triggering for people because you're like, yeah, well, it's because you're fit and you're lean. And yes, my genetics are definitely lean. But there's been times in my life, like after pregnancy, with all the different crazy shapes of my boobs. Like there was a time when I had to wear a bra and I didn't even know the letters went that high. I think I was in like the H's, or like they were bigger than my baby's head. Like two, both of them were bigger. Each of them was bigger than the baby's head for sure. And that, doesn't feel great to feel like your body is weighing you down. So I felt self-conscious about my body, mostly to do with my boobs. And being there for swim week I felt like I'm in good shape because I've been working out a lot and taking care of myself. But the week leading up, I was like, okay, maybe I should diet. That's what people do before they have to be like naked in front of a bunch of people, right? So I tried to withhold certain types of food for myself, like sugary foods, mostly like I tried to eat mostly protein. And what ended up happening was that by like 7 p.m., I was just binging sweets and carbs. So of course I asked ChatGPT because that's who I ask about everything. And it made so much sense because supposedly if you withhold carbs from yourself, also it was right before I was about to get my period. I got my period the day we were walking down the runway, which is great because I'm like cramping and like just could not have come at a worse time. But if you withhold carbs and specifically sugar from yourself in the form of carbs before you're about to get your period, so in your luteal phase, your serotonin completely plummets. So you're miserable, which makes you, and your dopamine, which makes you want to seek dopamine and serotonin in other ways, which, it's like all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I want to vape right now. Or I need like an Adderall. Like I would never do that because like, that's not, first of all, I have surgery in a couple of days, but also because that's not how I get my dopamine anymore. I worked out instead, but I still did not I felt like withholding a bagel from myself made me want to do even worse things for the same like pick me up. So, and then Chat also told me that at the end of the day, it's a lot of times when people who are trying to withhold food from themselves will binge because your frontal lobe of your brain that's in charge of decision making by the end of the day is fatigued from all of the decisions it's had to be making all day long and from restricting yourself all day, that's the time when it can just get tired and give up. And that's when I drove to get a donut. And that was only one of the occasions when I did that. And also, that's so out of character for me to go and binge sweets in the night. Like I don't do that. So I'm like, I should just not try to withhold any type of food for myself because it works out better when I don't. That was a fail. Let that just be a lesson that dieting doesn't work, and a lesson to just lesson to me, because not that I really think that walking down runways is going to be a huge part of my future. I'm not going to close doors because you really never know. But if I do have to walk down any runways ever again, I will not be trying to not eat carbs because it backfires. So, I'm not going to lie. I think that I am kind of one of those people who has a negative attitude about things like swim week, which feels like I should not say that because, brands represent me to be there and things like that. But I'm just going to be honest with you all. In the back of my mind, I kind of am like, oh my God, am I contributing to this glorification of women's bodies for people's viewing pleasure, and not in a way of like, I'm against the culture of everybody having perfect bodies, because that's not what Swim Week is. Like, there are bodies of all different shapes and sizes. And, you know, there's people who don't have all their limbs that are walking down the runway. There's people that are plus size models. There's people that are really muscular and athletic doing somersaults down the runway. So it's like, they really are trying to be as all-inclusive as possible, but it kind of makes me feel like, okay, what exactly are we trying to accomplish here? I really like how we're including all different shapes and sizes of bodies. I think that for people who have not been able to see themselves represented in this population of models, it's really a great turning point in history for them to be able to now feel like they're being seen, and this is something that they could do someday too. So for that purpose, I think it's great. There was a big element of Swim Week that I think is new from past Swim Weeks, although I haven't been there in the past, but just before it used to be these nameless, faceless models that fit the stereotype of beauty. And now it's influencers and people whose personalities are known from like reality TV. So I was walking in the Cupshe show, and there were some notable people there, which was the show that I walked in. Kelsey Anderson had a line with them, and she is from The Bachelor. She won on Joey Graziati's season. I think I said that correctly. And also a couple influencers like Lexi Wood and Iskra Lawrence. Everybody was really nice. And then there was a Sports Illustrated party that me and Sophie and her boyfriend went to. And I have a lot of friends who are in the Sports Illustrated magazine for some reason. I don't know why I ended up with like 20 Sports Illustrated friends. I feel like the universe was just really trying to test my self-esteem. But some of my most favorite this year, Katie Austin and my good friend Nicole Williams English. And then, of course, Bethany Frankel walked down the runway this year. Now, you guys, I am so just out of it that I didn't even remember that she was going to be there. Somebody had told me she was going to be walking in Sports Illustrated, and I totally forgot. Oh yeah, and also Remy Bader. But anyway, so Bethany looked fantastic. She's 54. She has no cellulite. Her skin is perfect. Like she has no stretch marks. I know she has one daughter, I think. Like she's had a kid before, and she has a really good body. I'll give her that. I feel like these companies now are booking not like there still are some traditional models, but I feel like more than half of the people that I saw walking the runways were influencers and reality TV stars, which is just, it's like, it's an interesting place that we've come to in this world now. And also me over here kind of looking at it from the sidelines, but then being like, oh, wait, you're that too. Like you're part of this. And it's just it felt weird. Like, I don't know. I left that weekend kind of being like, I felt very hyper-focused on my body, obviously, because I was walking down. People are looking at my body, how it compares to other people's bodies. And that's just kind of the name of the game. I mean, the human brain compares. That's just what it does. And when you have one girl after the next walking down in sequence, like you're looking at how does this girl compare to this girl? And yes, we were all represented very nicely, but I don't know that I love being a spectacle, because it definitely targets like the parts in my brain that are like, okay, how could I be better? How can I make this more perfect? And although like there's so many different types of beauty, and I fully believe that, and I think there's enough room in this world for everybody to be beautiful in their own unique way. It just, to me, it feels like we are on a parade to be compared. And I didn't really feel that amazing about it. With that, I will just pivot right into the conversation that I wanted to have with you all about my breasts. I feel like I've gotten a lot of DMs of like, tell me about what you're doing with your explant surgery. People are either kind of have considered it or are considering getting their breasts done in some way. And there's a lot of different ways you can get breast surgery now. So I'll just back up. I always kind of had like a full C, small D my whole life, like from when I was like 13 until I had kids. And when I had kids, I had an oversupply of milk. My boobs got so big. Like they got big during pregnancy, but then they got 4 times bigger when I was postpartum. And I'm talking like stretch marks all around, just completely hard and like watermelons, to the point where I was just wearing these like giant bras. After I stopped breastfeeding, which I breastfed Remy for 18 months, and then I breastfed Soleil for just over a year. So in between them too, like in between the 2 kids, they deflated. They did not feel cute. They did not feel good, but I knew I was going to have another baby. So I just let them be. Got pregnant with Soleil. Same thing happened. They blew up. They were huge. Now they're like these watermelons you can kind of just like lift up, that were just felt like more like, I don't know, like oblong kind of football shaped giant things attached to my body. So as you can imagine, I wanted to breastfeed. It was important to me, but I was really looking forward to getting them fixed after I was done with all of that. So I was looking into alternative options away from having an implant, because I didn't want to have more heaviness in my breasts. I wanted them to be natural. Like I wanted them to be as natural as they could be. I didn't want to have a foreign object in my body. I wasn't like really afraid of having toxicity like a lot of people are, although because I do so much hot yoga, supposedly that's something I should be concerned about, because of like my body gets heated up so much. But then I haven't had any doctor confirm that, although, you know, the doctors that are trying to sell the breast implants probably wouldn't be telling me that. But I just didn't want the heaviness of a breast implant in my breast. So I did a lot of research and found this doctor who is like the fat transfer doctor in Los Angeles. His name's Dr. Gavami, and he's known for his BBLs. Now, I did not get a BBL, although he did suggest one for me. And I was like, no. He's really good at them. Like if you like that thin waist with a big booty, I mean, I don't know who doesn't like that. I think it's a great look too, but it's actually one of the most dangerous surgeries that you can do. It's the number one surgery that people die from. And has something to do with the fact that when you're placing fat into a new area, you can inject like some kind of a blood vessel that goes to your heart and kills you. Now, that medical explanation might not be totally accurate, but it is something along those lines where something goes to your heart that shouldn't, and then you die. Okay, well, I'm not going to give you the exact statistics because they are varying on the internet right now, but basically it can be dangerous because of something called fat embolism. So despite it being one of the more risky surgeries, I decided that I was going to get a fat transfer rather than getting a breast implant. So that was my first surgery. The way that he transferred the fat this was the most painful recovery that I've ever experienced in my entire life. This is the most pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. Like obviously I was unconscious when they were doing the surgery, but afterwards, when I tell you from like head to toe, I was in so much pain. And I have a high pain tolerance, and I'm not afraid of surgery, and I'm not afraid of pain. This was like excruciating. And the reason it was so excruciating is because I didn't have a whole lot of fat for him to pull from. He had to go on all different parts of my body. So he took fat from the back of my arms, like a teeny bit from the back of each arm. He took fat from like my love handle areas. He took fat from my outer thigh and from my inner thigh. He didn't touch my stomach. So it was just those areas. But after you do it's lipo, because that's how you collect the fat. And lipo, if you've ever seen a lipo like scalpel stick, whatever you call them, they're like this long thing. Oh, and they like go under the skin, and it looks like the most painful thing, and it is the most painful thing. Then they have to wrap that, like you have to wear these compression things after you get lipo that basically, I don't know, keeps you healing well. And those were so uncomfortable. You have to sleep in those for, I think you're supposed to sleep in it for like a month. Of course, I never follow any protocol to a T, and I couldn't stand being in those garments anymore, but it was super painful. I healed really well, though. If you Google like botched lipo healing, it can be pretty gnarly. I healed perfectly. You can barely even tell. And you can't see the scars from that. But basically, so he took that fat and then he put it into he did a lift, and the lift is where they cut all around the nipple, then they cut down the center of the breast, and then they cut underneath the breast. So it's called a lollipop incision. It looks like an anchor pretty much. And that healed really well. It's pretty incredible the way that the breast heals, especially that center scar and the one around the nipples. Like, you really can't see it after like a year or two. It's almost completely gone. So my healing went really well with that surgery. Unfortunately, fat transfers, and evidently I signed off on this because, this is just part of what a fat transfer, this is just part of the reality of a fat transfer, is that a lot of that fat does not stick. And sometimes what can happen with it is it can turn into these hard balls called necrosis, where the fat actually dies and then turns into these balls, which now I have all in my breasts. They're like, one of them is the size of a golf ball, actually. Along with that surgery, so he injected fat, but then he also used something called a Galaflex mesh, and it's this internal bra that lifts the breasts, and it dissolves within 2 years. So what ended up happening was that over the first year and into like a year and a half, the fat started to die, turn into these balls, and then the Galaflex mesh also started to dissolve. So then they're getting flatter and saggier, to the point where a year and a half went by, and now all the fat pretty much that was in my breast looks like it's totally gone. I went back to the surgeon, and he was like, well, you lost 10 pounds. And I had lost 10 pounds. It was after I had 2 babies. The years following having babies, your body changes a lot. And just like as being a woman, I feel like our bodies kind of always fluctuate about 10 pounds. Mine does. Like, people's bodies fluctuate whatever your number is. My body usually fluctuates in weight. But the surgeon was like, well, because you lost the weight, that's why your breasts have deflated. I had a problem with that. We have since hashed it out. But basically, I was like, okay, well, they're completely deflated now. I need to do something. So we agreed to put in an implant instead of doing another fat transfer, since the fat didn't stick. So I went in, this was my second surgery, and he put in an implant that it was 290 cc's. I thought it was much smaller. So anyway, I went in for my second surgery. He put in the 290 cc implant, and then he did something called a wedge mastopexy, where they basically fold the bottom of the boob like under itself and sew it to your rib. Another painful recovery. It is literally like connected to my rib. It was like in that surgery. Now, after this surgery, about like 3 weeks after the surgery, I was signed up for the Hoffman Institute, which is this like week-long retreat that's really difficult to get into because there's a long wait list. And my friend got me in, and so I was like, okay, I have to go. And it was, now in retrospect, it was too soon to travel. Like, I was just not ready to travel. And then also, like, part of Hoffman, kind of weird, but you like beat things. You beat pillows to like get outraged from your childhood. I was like, I definitely cannot like use a bat. I can't like do like the overhead thing. So I was like, they gave me like magazines to tear instead. And I'm like, this just it didn't feel like I got the same out of it. But anyway, so I had the implants put in. Within a year, my nipples basically moved up like 2 inches because the implants were slowly falling like within my breast. And I go back to the doctor and I'm like, what's going on? My implants are falling down and my nipples are high. And he's like, well, it looks like your skin is not able to hold an implant of this size. So you have to take the implant out, and we'll probably have to do like another little lift and then put in a smaller implant. And at this point, I'm just like so over boobs. I'm just so over having big boobs. I'm so over having saggy boobs. I just don't want any boobs. Like I really just, and I'm jealous of girls who don't have to wear bras because I feel like I've been in this world for so long of just like having to wear, like not being able to wear certain things because because like my bra is showing, or I can't wear a strapless bra because my boobs are too saggy, or I can't wear like, I'm taping them up and I'm just so over boobs. So I'm like, I don't want another implant. I want you to take this implant out and I want to just have small boobs. And so he's going to do a lift with the Galaflex mesh again. And they're supposedly going to be like a full B, which I'm going to be very happy with if that is the case. The other thing is that because the implant was pulling down on my breast, my scar stretched. So I have like a 12-inch scar around the bottom of my breast, which I'm really not happy about. So I'm hoping that when he goes back in for the lift, we can do something to kind of minimize the appearance of the scar. There's no way that you can make a scar smaller, obviously, but there are things that you can do to a scar to make it almost like unnoticeable at all, like exosomes and PRP. So I'll be doing that. I'm going to be doing hyperbaric oxygen chamber after, and red light therapy and lymphatic, and all of that is really helpful for healing. So honestly, I'm excited. I'm not nervous. Like every once in a while, people are like, oh my God, you're going to surgery. That's so nervous. That's so nerve-wracking. Like, but I don't know. I don't feel nervous about it. I don't think I hope I don't die. This would be a really not great way to go out. But I feel like if you're generally pretty healthy, then you don't die. Although you're not supposed to drink for 2 weeks before your surgery. And I definitely did have a few drinks in Miami. But I think that I'm going to be okay. I did some research and supposedly you're just fine. It's just, it could be a problem for healing if you drank excessively, which I didn't. I did think it was so interesting going to Miami Swim Week because obviously I'm very hyper-focused on breasts right now, and I was looking at everybody's boobs, and there's so many implants there. There's a lot of people with little itty bitty implants that look like tennis balls kind of stuck to their chests, like looking in two different directions. And that I don't like that look, but everybody has their preference. And for me, I felt like my walk down the runway could have just been so much better if I didn't have these big old boobies just like bouncing around. Of course, it's all I can see when I look back at the videos too, which is a little ridiculous, but they are just a distraction to me. And I feel like big boobs are not for me, for my future. I want to have small boobs so that if I ever do have to walk down a runway ever again, I won't be held back by them. And also just running in general. Like I like to do workout classes like a Barry's and a Boonda, like where there's this like cardio element to it. And if you have big boobs, it just makes it all a little different, a little difficult. So I'm excited about my breast surgery. I'm excited that I am able to take my body into my own hands and make it more comfortable for me to live in. I think that's kind of like what this is all about. I feel like that's kind of the message that I got from Swim Week, is that whether or not you like the way someone else's body looked, you can tell by someone's confidence level if they like their body. And that's kind of what it's all about. So learning how to love your own body, no matter where it's at, is something that I'm still working on. And I do beauty procedures and things like, and some of them work out and some of them don't. And it's interesting to look back over the years and be like, oh, wow, I think overall doing less is actually probably better. But no shame to anybody who's trying out different things to see like what makes them feel more confident. And so I'm hoping that getting my implants out and having smaller boobs is going to make me feel more comfortable in my body so that I feel like I can move better and more freely. So wish me luck. It's in 2 days. And I'll be back to let you guys know if I feel like I might need a fourth surgery.